What's up, boxing fans? We have another show coming up to you March 25th at the Grand Villa Casino, the takeover to the Uprising. Tickets are available on our website, empireboxing.live. Go ahead and reserve them early. This show will sell out. Not only that, but we are launching a watch party of the takeover at the Hollywood Theater on March 1st. Tickets will be available very soon, also on our website through Eventbrite. You're not going to want to miss this, as we're going to have a live press conference with the athletes coming for the takeover to the Uprising as well.
An Empire Boxing and Unlearning Network production.
Welcome back to the Empire Boxing Podcast. I'm your host, Coach Jay, and I have, even a better voice than my own on here today. I don't know if I'm happy about this or a little bit jealous, but we got the golden voice, Don Andrews, on the mic. Welcome to the studio, Don.
Thanks, Jay, for having me.
I'm just kidding. I'm actually extremely excited to hear your voice in surround sound for the next hour.
Excellent. We could get tired of it after a while, but...
Really?
Yep.
You think?
Yep.
Does your wife shh?
All the time.
Really?
Especially when we're shopping. She's like, you have no volume control at all. You have no volume. I can be standing 2 aisles over and ask her if we need something.
Amazing.
And she'll be like, we don't need that.
See, for me, it feels like this pleasant, my whole life would be being narrated for me or something. Do you ever? Okay, so be real. Do you ever play with it? You guys are cooking dinner and you're like, she gently stirs the pan.
Kind of, but there's 2 really great stories. My wife just told this story actually recently.
Okay.
We had just begun dating.
Yeah.
We are at the beach one day and we're having a beer. And I have the beer in my hand, and as I'm looking at the beer, I'm reading it. The crisp hops and the barley and the oats and the malt and how it all comes together and it's delicious.
Uh-huh.
And this head popped up from the other side of the log, and the guy went, What are you drinking, man? Because that sounds delicious. And it's happened.
And
it's
you're
happened
like, we
a couple
take
times.
cash only, thank you.
Pretty much. I felt bad. I kind of looked around. I felt like I should reach for. Well, it's this here.
Yeah, that's so
Have
good.
one of these.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Yeah.
Okay, so how did you get started as would you call yourself a voice actor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I am.
What's
I'm
the official title that encapsulates all that you do?
voice talent.
Okay.
Because you're an actor and you're an announcer and you're a character.
There's so
and
many
so
things.
there's a lot of layers to it. So I think in the industry we like to refer to it as voice talent.
Voice talent.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you get started as a voice talent?
Funny enough, I didn't really do much of anything with my voice until I was like 30.
Okay.
Yeah. For those first real formative years and stuff, everybody kept telling me over and over again, you should be in radio. You should work in radio. You should work in radio.
Yeah, I bet.
And the idea is there, but it never really crosses your mind. You never, unless you're around someone else that really works in it, is in it, and is showing you how it is on a daily basis.
Right.
It's not something you think about necessarily. So I didn't really think about it. And then I started walking past a broadcasting school in the area that I lived in.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you know what? I'm going to go in, and if I can get some schooling, I'm going to work in radio.
Cool.
And I went in, I spoke to the administrator, who we are still friends to this day, her and I. I sat down at the desk and I said to her, look, if I qualify for schooling, then I'm going to go. But I said, I don't know. I'm not super confident. And she said, well, you're going to get all the money, all the funding, all the grants, everything you need. You'll be in school in 2.5 weeks. And I said, oh, come on. I wish I had the same confidence.
Yeah.
And in 2 weeks, I got a phone call and was fully funded to go to broadcasting school.
And so what were the factors that they were determining whether funding would be granted?
Well, age was a factor.
Okay.
Age was a real factor. It's surprisingly, a lot of the people that were in my class were between 19 and 25.
Yeah.
And I was just at 30, 31 when I was starting it. So they kind of look at you with a different mindset. They think, okay.
A little bit more serious.
You know what you're doing. You kind of might have a route even. So, and I did. I knew that I wanted to do it.
Right.
I just, at the time, had no idea how to get to that point. Then went into the school, spoke to her, got all my funding, went to school.
Wow.
And it was
meant to be, some may say.
It was terrific.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And what was do you remember what your first gig was?
Like first gig as far as radio?
Like something you booked as a voice talent, your very first thing.
Talent. Oh boy. The first really big one was a Crayola commercial.
Oh, cool.
That I did.
Yeah.
Especially, which was really cool having kids at the time.
Yeah.
Because it was like this Crayola Color Alive marker sort of thing.
Right.
That was a lot of fun.
Your son, Daddy's going to show you some.
See
that crayon?
He just immediately wanted, what is that? And can I have one of those?
Yeah, it's like the beer, the guy at the beach. Oh my God.
Totally.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So.
And then talk to us about your journey into radio as well. Like, how did that come to be and unfold?
In school, there was a radio station that had flipped formats, and suddenly they were playing Christmas music all the time.
What month is this?
It was like late November, early December. So it wasn't that threat of, oh, you're going to have to listen to Christmas music for the next 37 days.
I thought we were talking like July or something here. I'm like, bold move.
Not quite, but it was like mid-November, and it was enough that it made me notice. So I went to my instructor and I said, hey, this radio station just turned to all Christmas, and it's like mid-November. What's up? And he said, they're probably going to change formats. And I said, oh, what do you like a totally new radio station? And he said, yeah, 100%. And I said, so how do I get in? And he said, you start calling these people. So I started making phone calls.
Right.
And I just never quit until somebody answered my phone call.
Yeah.
And eventually I spoke to this lovely lady by the name of Doreen Copeland. And Doreen was the one that really just kind of, she was the lock to my key. Really.
Right, yeah.
And I said to her, I'm in school. I'm doing this stuff and I want to be in this industry. What do I have to do? I said, I'll volunteer. I'll volunteer on your morning show. I know you're about to do this format flip. Everything's about to be brand new. I want to be a part of it. And she said, okay, well, we'll sit on it. And I waited. I waited like 6 weeks and I got a phone call like 6 weeks later.
Yeah.
I think it was into January almost. Wow. And I get a phone call and she says, hey, listen, we've picked out our morning show crew and they are okay having an intern come in. So we'd like to bring you in if you're interested. And I said, of course I am. So I was getting up 5 o'clock in the morning, going to the morning show, working from 6 till about 8:30 or 9.
Right.
Then I go to broadcasting school from 9:30 till about 3. And then I worked in the neighborhood from 3 till about 10. I would go home and I go to sleep. I get up the next morning. I go back to the radio station 5 o'clock in the morning. And I did that for like 6 months.
Yeah.
And then they offered me a job.
Wicked.
Yeah.
Wicked.
Yeah. It was one of those.
Was there any times during that grind where you're like, I don't know if this is all going to amount to something? Like, did you know you're like, come on?
There's a big part of you that like doubt creeps in. We all know that doubt creeps in.
Yeah.
But I knew what I wanted.
Yeah.
Like I really knew what I wanted. Compared to if I compared myself to the people that I was in class with,
right?
They weren't as motivated. I think that's the best term. There was 3 or 4 of us that were, as they termed us, mature students, which whatever. You can call it as you will. Those of us, we went into the industry and we all worked for quite a few years. The younger students that were there it wasn't that they didn't go into the industry, but they went into the industry in different spots. They went into the industry in things like promotions and street teams and your entry level stuff. Right. I got an opportunity to do an on-air shift before I was even done schooling. Yeah. So of course I jumped on every opportunity that I had.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's very cool. It's like, and I mean, like, let's think about it. Between like 18 and 28 are like your kind of formidable years of discovery as well. Yep. You're like touristing different things. How does it feel to be here? How does it feel to be there? What am I going to do here? Like, so at that age, I don't think you really know. And it's not even fair to say that you should really know what you want to do. So I think when people are probably selecting, like, okay, well, who do we want to acquisition? It's probably the people that, they can bet there's going to be some longevity in a career. Because it does seem like people in that industry as well invest in you and take a chance on you and that kind of thing as well. For sure. And there's lots of young people that come into the industry and have tremendous amounts of talent and can go right into radio right away. Yeah. My experience is just relevant to the class that I was with. I've seen people that are 19, 20, 21, 22 years old enter radio and be phenomenal. Right, yeah. Good communicators are good communicators. Right. And so I was just going to ask you, so what is the criteria to be good in radio? Good communicator. Okay. Like it's really weird because you got to be able to have a conversation like you and I are having, but in an empty room with nobody. Right. And nobody's there to answer you. Mm-hmm. Right. You're having this conversation almost in your head. You're putting out this information. It's really strange because you develop a lot of one-sided conversations is what you do. You develop your material opinion to be delivered. Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. You deliver it in a way that it's information, but not all of the information. Right. You put it out there, but it's just people, there's enough missing that people want to listen. Right. So being a good communicator really was the key. That was what was told to me when I first started broadcasting school. They said the key to this is just to be able to sit like you and I are doing right now and be able to have a conversation with another person
it's fundamentals. It's one of those fundamentals.
So I'm so curious what the learning syllabus behind communication is. Because, I mean, isn't that the key to unlocking like productive humanity is communication? So
course.
how does one teach communication? What is the syllabus involved in that? And then let's package it.
Well, I think it has to be more of a natural thing, though. And I think that's why when you see the people that are successful, you see those people that are naturally gifted at conversation, at communication, at being able to engage people. Because you're engaging with, again, you're engaging with a microphone.
Yeah.
Right? Staring into a microphone like this.
Yeah.
With very little around you.
Yeah.
So
would you also, could you say that's X factor? Like what we deem X factor is when it comes to personality and, charisma or all the things that encompass someone who is engaging. Is that more or less the same thing? And then how do you teach that? Or are you suggesting you either kind of got it or you don't?
Kind of. You know the people that are really successful. You know the people that are in radio and have been in radio for an extended amount of time, and you know them by name because they're good at what they do. Even if they leave a radio station in one city and they move to another radio station in the same city, it's a really good indicator that they're a very good communicator.
Right.
Because in a lot of cases, when you work somewhere, I had a short stay in radio. I had an opportunity to leave, and I was given opportunities to go to other places.
Right.
But I didn't want to leave. And if you're willing to leave, the opportunities are out there, right? But if you're staying, then it kind of, it narrows it a little bit.
Okay.
So
what was your reasoning for not wanting to stay?
My wife and I just met.
Okay.
And I said, hey, here's this opportunity. I'm working in radio. And radio was fun. I have a great story about when my wife and I first met in radio.
Which we want to hear.
Well, of course we'll hear.
Okay.
And I said, if you're interested, I've been offered an opportunity to either go to like Victoria or Red Deer or Antigonish, Nova Scotia.
Whew. What a list.
And she said, I'll visit you.
Yeah.
Something just didn't even skip a beat, right? And I was like,
see you in a bit.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boy. But I mean, she was a keeper. So we are first dating, and I end up working at Jack FM. I get a job working at Jack FM, doing the weekends. So I want to be the cool guy. So I invite her in and I say, come and hang out with me on a Saturday while I do my show. Mm-hmm. So she does. She comes in and she sits next to me and I'm doing the show and everything's great.
Yeah.
And sorry, I bumped the table.
All right.
And there's a phone. There is actually a phone in the radio station.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not sure if these exist still. I'm sure they do. But there's like
a real landline.
There's like a hotline phone. And when that phone rings, something's wrong. Like wrong.
Oh, it's
seriously
not like,
wrong. It's,
hey, Mr. DJ,
there's no reason for that to be ringing.
Okay.
So we are sitting there, and as far as I know, the show is going, and it's out on the airwaves, and that phone rings. Mm. And I immediately panic and pick up the phone and hello, and the other end of the line is, well, there's nothing coming out on the air. It's just dead air.
Oh, no.
And I'm like, but it's happening here in the room. I can hear it.
Yeah.
And they're like, but it doesn't matter because it's not being broadcast out.
Right.
So I hang up the phone and I call up the technician really quick in the building and I say, hi, what's going on? He says, I'll be down in a minute. Walks in the room, walks right over to where my wife is sitting.
Oh, no.
And flips the switch that she turned off with her leg. She hit a switch with her leg that was it was an amp.
Oh,
that basically
the eject button.
The
shutdown.
The shutdown.
Dang.
Yep.
Oh, poor thing.
No big protective thing over top. No, none of that. No, just
do not touch with the panel like in the cartoons.
Switch. Oh. Just looked like a light switch.
Oh, so she probably felt so bad.
It was terrific.
Yeah, she's just kind of like, oh,
yeah,
sorry.
Yeah. So
okay, so then you decided not to go because you met this girl who was not interested in Red Deer for obvious reasons.
For obvious reasons, yeah.
And then what happened?
I decided that radio just wasn't for me.
Okay.
I never really closed the door 100% on it because I love the idea of it. It was one of the greatest jobs I ever had. Terrific people. Really just a real family feel to it.
Yeah.
There's such volatility behind the business and you can really only last for so long. And if you're willing to go to those small places and work your way up, then it's good for you. But if you're not, then it's really not the best thing in the world. So I decided I would be a voice actor and voice talent.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then after you kind of made that choice, what did you have to do from a agent management perspective, just sort of get your foot in different avenues?
Well, funny enough, I started being a ring announcer before I actually became a voice actor,
Wicked.
which is the weird part.
And park on that. How did that start?
I am working at I used to work for an audiovisual company. I was an AV technician for a company, and we did duplicates. We would take your old VHS tapes and we'd duplicate them into some digital format. And this hulking man, just a massive, massive human being of a man, comes in the door one day, and he's big, and and he's got giant hands like lunch boxes, and he's sweating, and he puts these tapes down on the counter, and he slides them over and says, I need copies of these. I'm like, okay. So I take down his
whatever you like.
Yes, sir. And they're free if you like them.
Yeah.
He was a very, very large and intimidating man at the time. Yeah. So I write down his information, and immediately I'm intrigued.
Yeah.
So I look it up, and it turns out it's his name is Paul Lazenby. Paul was the former Canadian Muay Thai heavyweight champion, among other things. He was a pro wrestler. He's a stuntman. He's
a unit.
He's a massive man. He's a massive man. So Paul, I reach out to Paul and I say to him, hey man, he brought me these videos of him when he was doing No Holds Barred in Japan, like years ago, like old school.
So it's like game tape
Shuto and that sort of stuff,
cool.
right? And so he brings me these tapes and stuff. And when he comes back to pick up the duplicates, I say to him, hey man, I gotta ask, like you're Paul Lazenby, former Canadian Muay Thai heavyweight champion. So I start talking with him and stuff. And I impart on him that this is something I'm really interested in. Yeah. If there's anything that ever comes across your desktop that says, hey man, I need an announcer, I would love to be the guy.
Yeah.
So he leaves, thanks, out the door he goes, comes back a few more times for some business. We do some more duplicates for him and stuff. And then he comes in one day and he says to me, hey, you were talking about that. You serious about that? And I said, yeah, of course. He says, okay, there's a local guy. I want to get you in, talking to him. So we end up doing this event locally here. And it turns out really great. Yeah. Turns out good for me. I represent well for Paul, which is a terrific thing. And a few months go by, I get a couple of other smaller events and stuff. And then suddenly my phone rings. And Paul says to me, hey, you have a passport? I said, yeah. He says, okay, well, you're going to New Jersey. I said, oh, okay. He says, yeah, I got you a job with Bodog. And I said, oh, okay. All right. I'll get my affairs in order and, tell me what I have to do, where I have to be and where, when, and I'm there.
I'm a yes man.
So I end up being flown to New Jersey. I am hired by Bodog to do their New Jersey show. And there are all these crazy MMA veterans that are on this card. And I get the opportunity to do this. And it just really snowballed from there.
Wow. Yeah. So, wow. Okay. So had you seen had you been to a live combat sporting event or kind of had a sense of what you were going to be required to do previously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you were like
huge
well up for
fan.
it.
Huge boxing
Okay.
fan.
So the roots are deep here, Don.
Jimmy Lennon Jr.
Okay.
Jimmy Lennon Sr.
Talk dirty to
Michael
me.
Buffer.
Oh yeah.
The core, those three real core guys that really did lead boxing for a really, really, really long time.
And still,
absolutely. Yeah. They're still such an integral part of what goes on. And they have set the precedent for all of us. They've made such inroads for all of us to do what we do now and for all of us to be able to enjoy it they're who I've modeled myself after since day one.
Cool.
Oh, absolutely.
Wow.
Absolutely. That classy, really classy information. Yeah. I want to give you information. I don't want to yell in your face. Yeah. I don't want to feel like you're being assaulted by my words. You know what I mean? I just want to give you some information in an excited way. Yeah. Right?
That's so cool. So you go to New Jersey, you're stepping into your first sort of combat arena to do some announcing. Tell us a little bit about what that experience was like.
It was
and how did it snowball from there?
It was pretty nuts. Yeah. It was pretty nuts. That one is a bit of a blur. Do you know who Bob Sheridan is?
Tell us.
Colonel Bob is one of only...
Wait, Colonel Bob?
Yeah, Colonel Bob Sheridan. Sorry, my bad. Colonel Bob.
Any relation to the Colonel himself? Kentucky Fried Chicken Colonel?
Not Kentucky Fried Chicken Colonel, but Bob is one of only two guys to be inducted into the Boxing Hall of Fame as a commentator.
Wow.
I get the opportunity to work with this guy. And
Cool.
he is really boxing royalty. If you really look up Colonel Bob Sheridan,
Yeah.
those that know, if you know, you know.
Shut up,
Like
Colonel
you really
Bob.
know. Phenomenal guy.
Wow,
Really, really
very
terrific
cool.
guy. And he came to me with this real enthusiasm and this real, like, I really love what you do sort of thing.
Mhm.
So it was really nice to feel somebody that had such experience and had been around so many other really cool, talented and experienced people to come to you and go, hey, I really like what you do.
Mhm.
I was like, okay, this is really, really cool.
Yeah.
So a couple of months go by. Bodog books a show in North Vancouver here,
Yeah.
and we shoot for 2 days in North Vancouver, and they put out the show, and everything goes really well. Everything is rolling along.
Yeah.
I get involved with local organizations here, and I spend like 6 or 7 years working for a local organization and helping them all out. And then I've been working with a friend of mine, Darren Owen, for years and years and years. And he calls me one day and he says, hey, man, I got this great opportunity. I'd love to take you traveling. And we want to go do this stuff with World Series of Fighting Global Championships.
Oh.
And of course I say, yes, of course. Let's jump on this. And I bring this up because one of the places that we got to go, we ended up in the Philippines, and we ended up
Wow.
with Smart Araneta Coliseum,
Wow.
where the Thrilla in Manila took place.
Absolutely.
And you go there, and there are these 50-foot tall banners
Wow.
of everybody just draped on this building.
Yeah.
And you walk in the building, and there's just this feel.
It's like a mecca.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It was amazing. So
Wow.
it was really, really, really neat.
And at that point, did you look around and pinch yourself a little bit?
Yeah. We had been to Japan
Yeah.
3 months before. No, sorry. About 8 months before that,
Yeah.
we've been to Japan. And I'm standing in Japan, and I'm looking at the list of like legends. I had 4 or 5 really old school MMA legends on this list that I was about to introduce. And I really kind of was like, this is just not real.
Tantalize
This
us.
is just
Who was on that list?
Akihiro Gono was
Okay.
on that list, the Magic Man. Hisei Watanabe was on that list.
Oh, wow.
Mei Ui was on that list from Korea. Trying to think of who else.
That's awesome.
There were some real
Yeah.
cool legends on that one.
And so just being around that caliber of venue and the caliber of athletes and kind of just that, it must have just been an out of body.
Yeah, it was amazing. It's amazing, and it's really different
Yeah.
because it's there. When you come here, you go to an event.
Yeah.
As soon as the lights go on, as soon as that bell rings, everybody goes crazy.
Yeah.
I start to introduce somebody, and the crowd gets right into it and
Yeah.
stuff. I've never heard a crowd so quiet in my life.
Yeah.
I've got video footage of the work that I did in Japan.
Yeah.
And I introduce the fighters, and there's a smattering of applause.
Yeah.
And then they wait. And then they wait for the fight to end, and then they get excited
Yeah.
at the end of it,
Yeah.
but not during the introductions.
Is that a
and not
cultural thing, do you think?
I think so.
Yeah, it must be.
They were very respectful. They were very,
Yeah.
like, as the evening went on, and because we were doing an international thing, so we were
Right.
doing a lot of Japanese versus Brazil fighters and
Right,
France fighters and
right.
that sort of thing. So as the Japanese fighters started to show more up on the card, they started to get a great deal into it more.
For sure.
But from the very beginning, it was very calm and very quiet. and
Interesting.
very reserved.
And then you're
Which-
finding those North American audiences are just, everyone's off the hook.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, we're also more obnoxious than I think.
Right. We're culturally more obnoxious. So yeah, that's a part of
Pleasantly
it.
and lovingly
Right.
more obnoxious. Honestly,
Yeah.
we wouldn't even be as motivated to do it without the fans, and we love the energy. So
Oh, for sure. For sure.
and that's something that, you really add to our events. And did you do ones for the Alliance events prior? Because that was the first time I had worked with
No.
you. So this was your first time with us. Amazing.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, once we were like, okay, this is our guy. So, yeah, it was such an ease, and it because we're on the other side of like we've just white knuckled for 3 months or less, right? And we're on the other side of it. Like, is it all gonna pan out? There's still a giant question mark. In your heart of hearts, It's going to be okay. Everyone's going to have a good night. There's always shit that hits the fan. Always. And a lot of stuff people don't know about. So, we're over there just like the white knuckle continues until the show ends, basically.
Right.
And then having you there just so calm and professional, and you were very excited about it. It just brought, especially for me, because we worked quite closely together that night. And it just brought like such an ease. I was like, oh, thank God.
You were at ease a great deal into the evening, a lot more than you were at the beginning, for sure. For sure, when we first met.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
because
again,
we're like in panic mode.
Right. There's so much going on. There's so many moving parts at that point,
yeah,
too.
the adrenal glands are screaming.
Right.
They're screaming.
Everything that leads up to getting going is what's the most stressful. It's what's always stressful for us when I work in game presentation in sports. Everything that leads up to the drop of the puck or the blow of the whistle or the tip of the ball, whatever it is, everything that leads up to that is the most stressful stuff.
Yeah.
And then everything after that, you just kind of glide through because it will all automatically happen.
It's so true.
So,
and and even like when your capacity to put out fires, like as the night goes on and things start going well, you find this like little bit of capacity that just starts to open up. And then when the little fire comes in, you're like, it's okay, I can deal with that.
Right.
But when you're at the tip of the top limit, like the bucket's overflowing and there's this thing happening, you're like, I can't find the room for this.
Yeah.
So, we had the issue with the stool. Do you remember the stool?
Yes.
It'll forever be known as the stool
issue.
night. Yeah. So, and like little things like that, we're like, okay, like we'll figure it out. But it inevitably something happens, but it was a huge benefit to have your just professionalism and your experience and your energy. So, I'm really looking forward to doing the next one with you as well, which is coming up in a mere just over a month.
Yeah.
Just
March 25 is right around the corner here.
The Uprising.
2.
Very excited for this show. And we have, this podcast is going to come out after, but at this point we have 8 confirmed bouts. So it's going to be quite
amazing.
A night.
Oh, excellent.
Yes.
Excellent.
Yes. Quite a night with Rhett Gibbons as the headliner, who he was our co-main for the last show.
Right.
So it should be a and a 6-rounder for him, a first 6-rounder. So there's lots of cool things. River Tucker's back. So we have I would like to see personally a female fight or 2 on every single card that we do from now on.
Absolutely. River Tucker's fight last time was great.
It was a great fight. And Erica was a very formidable opponent. Actually, both of the female fights were extremely competitive.
Yeah.
So it's so nice to see that and to see sort of it evolve as we start kind of, bringing different elements in. And so I wanted to say that it was such a pleasure.
Thank you so much. I enjoy this.
Yeah.
I really do enjoy this that much. Like I really do.
Yeah.
I really love this that much.
Isn't that so cool? When you're like, it's not work.
Ever.
I'm sorry. It's not. It's difficult. It has ups and downs.
Always.
But it's not work.
I go into every sporting event the happiest I'll ever be. I leave happy, regardless of whether the team wins, loses, or otherwise. It doesn't affect me.
Yeah,
I still get to go to a sporting event. I still get to go have a good time. I work with a terrific group of people on so many different levels, and I'm paid to go to sports.
Yeah, like what? Like what more could you ask for?
And it is challenging. I've got rugby 7s this weekend.
Yeah.
Is it next weekend? Next weekend.
The 4th and the 5th. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's a challenging weekend for me. It's 3 days of talking for probably 7 or 8 hours.
And talk to us about what your role is. Like what are you calling that night?
Every try and every conversion that's scored by every team. And there's a game every 12 minutes. So it moves along quickly.
Yeah.
International names, Fiji, Samoa, South Africa.
Did you get a list of all of that prior and you have to do are you real time figuring it out?
No. So the very first year I did it, I was given a list of names like 15 minutes or 20 minutes before I was about to begin.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult.
I wouldn't even want to try.
There are some that I'm very comfortable with.
Sure.
But there are certain names like a lot of the oceanic names and things, Fiji, Samoa, they can be very challenging. And there are certain letters that are not pronounced the way that you think they are.
Yeah. And certain letters that are there, but don't actually really get involved in the pronunciation of the name at all.
Right.
Yeah.
So it was a bit of a challenge the very first year.
Yeah.
And then every year after that, I am very, very fortunate. I get to spend time with a fellow who knows. I played rugby for 5 years and I learned a great deal when I played.
Right.
I get to spend time with a fellow by the name of Gareth Rees, and Gareth knows so much about rugby.
Yeah.
He is part of the broadcast crew that travels the world with Rugby Sevens.
Wow.
So I get to sit with him, and we go over them for about an hour. We go through every single name of every single team. And he just ensures that I know what I'm doing.
Right.
And it's the nicest thing in the world. I'm so fortunate.
That's so cool. These are all the little tidbits that no one really knows is happening behind the scenes,
Yeah.
which is kind of cool. So, I'm gonna play. I am dumb. Actually, I was gonna say I'm gonna play dumb, but I am dumb. I grew up watching hockey, right? And listening to there was always like the voice of the Flames, and those just absolute legendary voices that if you popped on the radio for a second and had your eyes closed, you'd know exactly who that was and what sport they were calling. And it was that voice that you associated with that team and watching hockey, which is such a nostalgic thing for me growing up. I love hockey. But you don't really know what happened. You only hear these people. You rarely see them. And you don't know what's happening at the desks, at the table, what they're looking at, what's been put in front of them. Like, are they just ad-libbing real time calling the game because they're so used to it of so many reps? Is there a cheat sheet? Like, what happens behind the closed doors? That's what I would love to know.
There's usually, for me, there's 2 hours of preparation that goes in every single game.
Okay.
We are given a script. Sometimes it's a digital script. Sometimes it's a script on a piece of paper.
Okay.
Sometimes it's 16 pages. Sometimes it's 40 pages. Whatever it is, I read every single word of it.
Yeah.
Every word that pertains to me, I read it. I read it all ahead of time. And that way, the way that my brain works, I read it, and then somehow my brain can hold on to bits of that information so that when I go back to read that again, I'm not cold reading it necessarily. My brain can go, oh, yeah, right. You kind of gave me a piece of that information earlier, so I can go back to it and we can recall that. And it makes it a little bit easier for me to be able to cold read. I don't like cold reading things. It's very difficult.
Right.
So
cold anything really.
Yeah.
Except
So
for iced coffee.
having 2 hours of prep is terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Very cool.
And
so,
it's necessary. Like it's so necessary.
Yeah. There's no way that's all just cold off the cuff.
No, because in a lot of broadcasters know who the other team is. We all know this because you see these teams enough times.
Sure.
You see their players enough times. But like, if I use soccer as an example, if I go to do a Whitecaps game, they will send a representative over from the visiting team over to our broadcast booth. And if I need to, they will sit and go through every single name with me and make sure that the pronunciation is perfect.
Right.
If I want that.
Yeah.
So the option's always there.
Right.
Right. We offer the same thing. A lot of teams are making it a digital. They're granting digital access to this sort of thing.
Right.
So they have the players just all pronounce their names, and then I can just go on to SoundCloud
and listen to it.
and you can hearing a person say their name is a great deal different than looking at a phonetic.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. So,
yeah. Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. So there's an enormous amount of prep that goes into this.
Right.
Tons.
Right.
Tons. And if you're like, from what I do, I'm a PA announcer, so my role is different. If you're like a play-by-play broadcaster, the work is significantly more.
Yeah.
You have so much more to know because you have 2 teams, right? So you're calling action at the same time,
Wow.
right?
Wild.
Yeah.
What a wild, like, is there like, do you feel some adrenaline whilst you're going through it? Like
All the time.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm worn out at the end of a game.
oh, I bet you're spanked.
You're done.
Yeah.
You're done. Because there's a level, like, everybody knows you don't go crazy.
Yeah.
But you can be passionate.
For sure.
Right? And it's good to be passionate because the fans follow the passion.
Absolutely.
Right? And the fans want to hear that if you're interested, it certainly helps them be interested.
Yeah, there's
right?
a bit of an
So-
emotional journey that kind of goes along with it.
Yeah, and they want that connection.
Yeah. So, okay, so talking is such a big part of your professional world. Do you ever find that you're just like when you say in those moments where you're just absolutely spent? Like, do you want to go home and like, hey, how was your day? Like, chat it out, or do you need like a kind of a decompression chamber of silence?
My favorite thing at the end of Rugby Sevens is I get to come home and my wife will say, "How was it?" And I'll say, "It was good." And then she'll know that she can just pretty much tell me everything she needs to tell me because I don't have a lot to share at that point, right? I don't need to go into detail. Nobody wants to hear the detail.
Yeah.
She might ask how Canada did, and I'll tell her, "Oh, Canada did okay," right? Other than that, I'm okay just being a set of ears all of a sudden.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
For sure.
At the end of a baseball game, at the end of a basketball game, at the end of a hockey game or a soccer game, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I'm okay. I can usually, you're not super worn out.
Right.
Right. Rugby sevens is just different because it's significantly more over the course of the day. It's just significantly longer.
And do you also find that because there's a personal connection to rugby, like you get maybe a little bit more emotionally invested in it because you played?
Yeah.
Maybe?
Yeah, for sure.
Interesting.
Yeah, for sure.
So is your wife a sports fan?
No.
What about your kiddo? Is Max a sports fan?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Max likes to go with me. He really
Yeah?
Max likes to go with me. And Max has been fortunate to do the starting lineup for the Canucks.
Oh,
I worked the Canucks Tampa Bay game.
Yeah.
And they asked if Max wanted to come in and do the starting lineup one day.
Cool.
So he did it. Olivia, my daughter, she's 9. She did the starting lineup for the Whitecaps.
Cute.
Yeah. They do like a youth appreciation night.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And they said, if she'd like to, we'd like to have her in.
Yeah.
So.
Just careful. He's coming for your job, I think.
That's fine. I've told everybody. So the next generation is just waiting. You know, we're grooming him at this point.
I mean, yeah, you're the Michael Buffer to his. Max is sitting off screen. Do you like what your dad does? Yeah, he does. Okay. Would you ever consider doing that? Maybe, he says. All right.
Well, both kids are voice actors.
No way. Have you done some cartoons or something? Not yet?
The cartoon we're hoping he and his sister did an episode of a cartoon that's not coming out yet.
Okay.
We can share it because we know the actual name of it is Shaq's Garage.
Shaq.
Yeah.
Like,
with Shaquille O'Neal.
Hey, and Matt Hoffer. This is a cartoon for you, sir.
Shaquille O'Neal and Rob Gronkowski.
Oh, fun.
Yeah. It's supposed to come out 2023. So this year. They pushed it back last year.
Yeah.
They did a whole episode together. The two of them.
So cute. Did you like that? Was that pretty fun? Yes, he did.
Just feed him some steel wool.
Yeah.
Some whiskey,
yeah, exactly.
right?
I was just going to say some whiskey and some hot wings.
But both my kids do it. Max just recorded a job for YMCA Greater Toronto.
That's so cool. Good for you. Put him to work. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Get him young. When he says it's going into a special account for your education, go,
Right, Mom? That's where it goes, right, Mom?
So Max is filming this so he can show Mom what Dad does with him. Yeah.
That's a shiny watch you got there, Dad.
Dad, is that a Rolex?
No, we've told them we don't let them spend that money.
Yeah.
So he and his sister, they've done okay. They've done pretty good for themselves. And they are actually in the midst of a 6-month acting course right now.
Cool.
Yeah, we put them through acting courses and really try and push them in the right direction and give them a few more layers.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely. And they're in that tourist phase of life of like, try everything, explore everything, see what you like.
Right.
And that'll continue. I mean, I'm 34 and still going. And that's a valuable part of life. The amount of skills and tools and experiences you learn by just trying your hand at different things, I think is so cool. And so
One of the things that I learned, and you say things like you're 34.
Cough, cough.
Right. I will be 52 this year.
No.
Yeah. In October, I will turn 52.
Wow.
And we didn't have Max until I was 40. Right. I didn't go to broadcasting school until I was 30.
Right.
We didn't have Max till I was 40. Age is really just a number. Like it really is a number.
Yeah.
Right. We put so much emphasis on when we're supposed to have things done. And I'm sure that if I'd gone to broadcasting school 10 years earlier, I probably wouldn't have gotten a job working in the radio industry right away.
Yeah. Interesting.
Having my son at 40 changes who you are.
Yeah.
Right. And I would have been a totally different dad if I'd had him at 30.
Yeah.
So
such a good way of looking at it. So what happened before then? What happened before the 30s where you kind of got into what were you doing and what did you think you were going to be doing?
Everything that was possible.
Right. Okay.
I did all sorts of weird jobs. I worked as a security guard for a while. I worked in construction for a while.
Right.
You know, it's
searching.
Searching. Yeah. Trying to find that one thing that you really like to do. I worked as a commercial high-rise painter and painted a whole bunch of high-rise buildings downtown outside.
Basically Tom Cruise in Mission Impossible 3.
But not without the paychecks. So
yeah. Wow. Unreal. So, okay. So no problem with heights then.
Now I ever since my children were born,
hell no.
I have a significant change in the way that I view heights.
Yeah.
100%.
I've been seeing all these like stuff on Instagram, like where these like breakdown like comedy videos where it's like stupid ways to die or something. And I feel like that's probably a decision. You're like, maybe not.
Yep.
Maybe not today.
Yeah. When I was younger, it was fine. I was totally fine. Like totally fine. But ever since having kids, Totally just, it's like a preservation thing. I don't know.
Yeah, well, that makes sense. You have other lives to contend
I
with.
think so,
Yeah.
right? When you're solo, you're just like, it's me,
Yeah.
so who cares?
I'm gonna
right?
wheelie on my motorcycle up to Whistler.
What do I care about me?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I have other humans
There's
to care
other
for,
lives.
right? Yeah.
So, what's your favorite sport to call?
That's tough because hockey's so much fun.
Hockey's the best.
Hockey's so much fun. It's so involving and it's so fast
So
and it's
fast.
so
Exciting.
But
And some of the last names. You got all the Chucks and
the best.
Skis and
the Europeans
Yes.
and it's funny because I love rugby sevens because it's such a challenge for me. It's a huge challenge. It's 3 days of really intense work for me for 3 days, but I love
Boys
it.
Talent Boot Camp.
Yeah. I love it. I really love it. Oregon soccer, Whitecaps.
Yeah.
25,000 people respond when I say stuff. And
Yeah.
that is the very first time I said a player's name and the crowd responded with their last name. I had bigger goosebumps than I think I've ever had in my entire life.
So cool.
It's the neatest thing when there's just this collective.
Yeah.
That's the best descriptive word I have for it. When there's this collective that comes together like that, it was amazing. It's an amazing thing. I've been doing this for 7 years.
Right.
I cannot wait for Saturday. Whitecaps home opener is Saturday. I cannot wait. There will be 20,000 people in that stadium.
Wow.
And I cannot wait for the response.
It's so cool because soccer really does have this culture that's sort of like kind of like mobby, you know, in the sense that they've got their songs and their chants and their calls and answers. It's like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Oh, yeah.
Like Sports Edition, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's throwing toast and
Yeah.
it's a whole thing.
Rice
so that
and
must
squirt
be,
guns and-
that must be really fun. Is that particular sports audience?
They're really involved. Right. It's very similar to lacrosse. Lacrosse is fun like that too, because in basketball, there's like music going and like it's a party.
Yeah. Basketball's kind of like, it's like the lounge club. That's like, everyone's cool. You know, you got your best gold chain on and you're sitting back looking like it's the cool.
Yep,
Like, it's
for
kind of
sure.
like, Matt Hoffer right now, sitting back looking cool.
But-
That's NBA to me.
But my favorite sport, if I was given an opportunity, somebody said to me on a call a game, probably hockey.
Yes.
Probably hockey.
Yes.
Yeah. I spent 15 years working in hockey.
Yeah.
And it's in you.
Yeah.
Like it's really in you.
Oh, it's so
Right.
fun. And hockey, their whole fan squad is really interesting too. They're so emotional, right? Like it's
yeah.
like they're like falling all over themselves for their team.
Yeah.
And then as soon as the team's behind and there's like 9 minutes left in the game, everyone's out the door.
Oh
like
yeah.
by
They're long gone.
like
Yep.
see ya.
Yeah.
Well, especially here, because if I go and watch one of my home team's games, like if it's the Flames, like those Flames fans are basically getting kicked out of the stadium after. We are
yeah.
white knuckling it to
Yep.
the last possible seconds, whether we're 2 goals down or 8. Everyone's like, there's a chance, you
For
know?
sure.
And I remember over Christmas, I went to like a Battle of Alberta and watching them play the Oilers and
Yep.
just, it's a whole thing. I actually
yeah.
much prefer like an Alberta hockey audience to a BC hockey audience.
I lived in Calgary for 5 years.
Did you?
Yeah. And that whole Battle of Alberta,
It's a thing.
it's a big thing.
Yeah.
Like it's not just a thing.
No, it's a
big thing.
yeah,
right?
like there are fights and
yeah.
all
Yeah.
kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like so,
It's aggressive.
It was funny because actually the far. I hadn't realized I hadn't actually been to a game in the Saddle Dome in ages because
Right.
I haven't lived in Calgary for going on 16 years or something.
Right.
So I'm like buying seats and I bought what I thought based on our stadium where this, and it was way the hell up there, right? But honestly, the view was great. There was nothing in my way.
Right.
It was quite like when you stand on the stairs at the top, you're like falling off. The
way the Saddle
creepy.
Dome's built like that, it's got a high
You
pitch
have
to
a
it.
moment where you feel
Yeah.
like you're washing windows on the top of some building, like
You feel
you have
yourself
that woozy,
leaning forward.
Yes, it was crazy. But then there was an Oilers group of guys that must have been a stag or something, and it was like 8 guys in their hard hats, like Oilers fans, and just all the shenanigans that went down between the Flames fans and that stag party was hilarious, and that's why I love hockey, and I love the hockey energy from the fan standpoint.
No, for sure.
And very different from a boxing.
Oh yeah.
Crowd.
Oh yeah. Yeah, very much so.
Boxing's also very much seen and be seen, swaggery, like
dress nice. Come out for an event, an evening, an experience. You put on your dress and you come out and it's a thing.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
You go to MSG and you go to the undercard and it's 20% full of just
Right.
average, people
Yep.
seeing their friend who's had his third pro fight that night or something. No one's really there. And you'll get people that have spent extortionate amounts of money rolling in for the co-main and the main, and that's it.
Right.
And it's like this entrance. You got velvet suits and sunglasses and top hats and all
Right,
that kind of
right.
thing. And boxing is such an interesting and historical culture of that.
Yeah.
That sort of like it's high class, kind of high roller Vegas style feel.
Oh, yeah.
Which just separates it so much from different other fans. Because I would say like your soccer fans are a little rough around the edges. Especially in the UK or in Europe, right? Or at least that's the energy. Yeah, right. But then boxing just brings a whole nother crowd, especially in the States. Here it's a mixed bag. You'll get all sorts of people, every walk of life. But in the States, it's a whole thing. Like if you go to LA or New York and you see a fight, it's like, okay.
Yeah. Again, you go for an event.
Yes.
Right. You're putting in the effort to look your best so you can feel good at this great event that you're going to.
Yeah.
Right. You go and then afterwards you're talking to all your friends about it. And that's what perpetuates it all the time. Oh, yeah, for sure.
So give us your take on see what I did there? The takeover. Give me your favorite fights, favorite fighters, your experience with it. Talk to us about how that was for you.
It was great. You guys run a really nice, clean, organized event. It was really great. The matchups were phenomenal. I was going to say, I could see the banner behind me. So I was probably going to have a bit of a hard time with some of the names, but I'm fortunate enough that I can kind of, sneak a peek in behind you every once in a while. Benit's fight.
Yeah.
Terrific. Very dominant. Very, very dominant. Jordan Dobie looked terrific. Trying to think what else. Rhett, of course, he had a very like a formidable opponent in that last fight. He was well matched.
I think he was tougher than everyone expected him to be.
Yeah,
It was kind of like, oh, okay.
Even Rhett
We're
kind
scrapping.
of, wow,
Yeah.
we're in for a fight tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And he kind of turned it up a notch when he felt he needed to. So
Yeah.
it was great. The energy from that crowd, that small room can be that it feels very large in that room when you suddenly pack full like you
It feels
did.
pretty intimate.
It felt really, really nice. It's a good venue for boxing. But something tells me that you're going to be good enough that won't be big enough. Thanks for joining us on the Empire Boxing Podcast. I'm Don Andrews, the Golden Voice, signing off, and we'll see you at the Takeover 2, The Uprising, March 25th.
Thanks for tuning in to the Empire Boxing Podcast. A huge thank you to our partners at Sting Boxing. It doesn't matter if you're into boxing for fitness, or as an amateur, or as a pro, Sting has something for you. Head to their website, stingsports.ca, and use the code EMPIRE10 at the checkout to receive 10% off.
Make sure to listen, follow, and subscribe to Empire Boxing on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube.